Next.js was released on October 2022 and it integrates React Server components and React 18 features. There are many new features in Next.js, including routing, where we have a new file system-based router built on top of server components. Rendering, there is a client and server-side rendering with client and server components. Data fetching, there is simplified data fetching with async await support and the fetch API that aligns with React. Optimizations, there is improved image component and a new font module with automatic font optimization. And there are other cool features that comes with Next.js, but in this video, I will be helping you to get started by creating a Next.js app and exploring the new file system. Here I am in VS Code and I have opened this new folder here called Next.js in VS Code, and I want us to start by creating our Next.js application. So right here, I'll just open the terminal and I will run this command npx create -next -app, and this is all we need to do to create our Next.js app. It will ask us a bunch of questions, and the first one is, what is your project named? So I want the name to be similar to this folder here, and I'll just include a full stop or a period here and hit enter. So that will take the folder name as the name. Would you like to use TypeScript with this project? And I will say yes. Would you like to use ESLint? I'll say yes. Would you like to use Tailwind CSS with this project? I'll say yes. So here I'm creating a Next.js app that will be already configured with TypeScript and Tailwind CSS. So if you don't want to use Tailwind CSS and TypeScript, you can just say no at these options. But I highly recommend that you try and learn these technologies if you are not already using them. They are the hottest in town. Would you like to use the SLC directory? I'll say no. And would you like to use the experimental app directory with this project? Now, this is the new feature that we are looking for. So here you need to switch from no to yes, okay? So I'll say yes. And then what import alias would you like to configure? I'll go with the default, which is 8. So I'll hit enter. And just like that, we have a spin up Next.js application, which will be configured with TypeScript and also Tailwind CSS. So I'll give it some time to complete installing, and then we will explore our files as we create new ones and see how we can configure routing, navigate between pages, and so on. So now this completed installing. To run the application, you will use npm run dev, then hit enter. So here is our application running, and we have enabled the experimental app directory, which is what we are looking for in this video. So to open this application on the browser, we just need to visit this link. I'll use Control, then click this link, and it will open on your default browser. I clicked twice, so I'll close one of them. So here is our application. It took some time to start. I'm not sure why. So the cool thing is that down here, we have some links to some learning materials, and you can click on docs to learn more about Next.js app router. And in this video, we will be exploring this part right here, routing. But in future, we can also explore these other sections like rendering, data fetching, styling, optimization, and so on. But if you like, you can jump into these docs and explore further about Next.js. So let's just go back to our code and see what we have. So right here, let me just close this terminal now. You'll see that we have this app folder, which is now new. And if we open it, we will have different files. Down here, you'll see that we have this layout.tsx, which will define the root layout. And every application must have this root layout. And as you can see, this is like the start of our application, where we have the HTML tag and the body tag. For us to set the title and the description tags for SEO, we have this new way of doing it, where we export a metadata object with the title of the page and the description of the page or the application. So if you rename this, you'll see that this changes at our application. So let me put this side by side with the app here, just like that. So if we change this title, e-commerce shop, and save this, you'll see that the title will change at the top here when the app hot reloads. It's not reloading. Let me reload manually, and you'll see here we have e-commerce shop. You can also add description for SEO purposes. This RootLayout accepts this children prop, and we pass that children prop at the body, and this children prop is the other pages of the application. So I'll be showing you how to add pages in our Next.js application. So here we already have one page, which is this home page. So if we open it, you'll see it has a lot of stuff, including all these links right here. And also it's styled using Tailwind CSS. So if you created your application using just JavaScript, this page might look different. At the very top here, you'll see that we also have a new way of adding fonts. So we import font inter from Next font Google. Then here we create a constant and we set it to inter. We call this function and we pass some options here. And then this inter holds a class name, which we use inside here to set the class name. So if I come down here, you'll see this is how the class name is being set for the font, so that that font is applied. So we can try to add our own font like Poppins and see if it works. So first of all, let me clear all this. I don't want to have a lot of stuff here, so I'll delete this div, and also I can remove this class here, and I'll save. So if I save, everything will change here. And here I will remove this image as well. And right here, let's add maybe just a H1 that says landing page, just like that, and save. And there we go. So we want to apply font Poppins to this landing page. But first of all, you'll see that we have all this styling for the background. I don't want all that. So what you need to do is to go to here, globals.css, and you can clear everything. So these are the styles that makes this background to look this way. So I will remove them. So I remain with these Tailwind directives for us to use Tailwind CSS. So I'll save. So now it's clear, and I'll close this file, come back to page.tsx. Now here we are able to import other fonts, and I'll show you an example with Poppins because it's one of my favorite fonts to use. Then here I can define a variable Poppins, and here we can call this Poppins function now. So I'll say Poppins, and subsets here will be Latin, but since I'm using TypeScript, it's expecting me to add the font weight. So here I'll go ahead and add the weight for this font, and for now we can just work with weight 400. Okay, and now to apply this font, as I told you, we just need to add a class name here, and we will read this as a JavaScript variable. So use backticks, and then you can be able to read Poppins here dot class name, just like that. So this is Poppins actually. Now if I save, you'll see this font transforming, so pay close attention to it, and I'll save that file and it will refresh, and there we go. Now we have a different font right there. Since I want this font to be applied everywhere in our application, I'll go ahead and import this font plus its constant here to our layout. So I'll come to layout and I'll paste that code here. Then another thing that I'll do, I'll cut this class name definition from here. All of it, make sure it's all of it from here. and I'll paste it at our body here. So body will contain the entire application, therefore that font will be applied everywhere, which is cool. So now we have seen that we have this layout, which is our root layout, which is a must. And also we have this page.tsx, and this page.tsx is like our landing page, our home page. Okay, now how do we add other routes? So we can come to this app and add a new folder, and let's say we have like an e-commerce shop. So here I'll add a new folder called shop, and in this folder we will add a new page. So I'll say page.tsx. So it's necessary that you name each page with this particular word, like page.tsx. You must use this naming for it to work out. Okay, and now here I'll create a stateless functional component, and I can say shop. Now the name of the component doesn't matter as long as the name of the file is page. Okay, so here I'll say shop, then here I can just add a h1 and I'll say shop page and save. Now once we do this, we have already created a route that goes to shop. So the route will be this way. To access this page, you just need to say stroke shop, which is the name of this folder here. So if I hit enter, you'll see that the content here will change to shop page. So there we go, shop page. And that is how we simply create different pages and routes in the application. So we can add multiple routes. By adding multiple routes, you need to create new folders. So at app here, I can add a new folder and I can say blog, and here I'll need to add page dot tsx. It can be JSX, it can be JS, or whatever you want. Now here I'll say stateless functional component, and I'll say blog right here, and here I can have a h1 saying blog page, just like that, and save. So now to visit this blog page, you need to consider the name of this folder stroke blog. And now these folders in Next.js, they are calling them segments. Okay, so if I go to this route, it's loading. You'll see that now we are at blog page. Now there are cases where you might not want the name of this folder to affect the route, but still want to have an organized way of organizing your files. So in that case, we have a way of naming the folders. So right here, you can add a new folder and use these brackets here. Use an opening bracket and a closing bracket, and in here you can give your organization or your group a name. So here maybe I can say this is the account, and in the account I want to have maybe different things. In this case, maybe I want to have a profile. So here to add a profile page, now I'll just add a new folder and say profile, and in this folder profile I'll add a new file, and that is page.tsx, and I can go ahead and create a stateless functional component in this page here. I'll name it profile, and I can say that this is the profile page, just like that, and I save. Now as you can see, this first folder we included some brackets. So that means that when accessing the route for our profile, or when accessing our profile page, we will not include this name account here. And this is a way of organizing your application into different files. You might want to create folders that doesn't affect the routes. So this is how you can do it. So here to access this, we will not include account, but we will include this profile. So here all we need to do is to say stroke profile like that and hit enter, and we should be able to access our profile page. So let's see if it works. So you'll see here we have now profile page, which is awesome. So you can use that to group your different files or pages. Now let me close all this. Now another thing is creating nested routes. So to create nested routes, for example, right here we have shop. So all we need to do is to include more folders in here for the nested routes. So for example, in shop, we might have products, we might have cart. So all we need to do is to add those folders here. So we can say cart, and in here we'll be having a page file. So I'll create it and we can add the component here, and I'll say cart. So the name of the component, again, it doesn't matter as long as the name of the file is page. And here I'll say cart page. Awesome. Now here, this is one of the nested route, and we can see how we can access it. All we need to do is to follow this path. So we'll have shop, then stroke cart. So here we can say stroke shop, then stroke cart, and when I hit enter, that will access that particular cart page, and there we go. Awesome. You can include multiple nested routes. So right here I can add another one, and I can say this is our products, and I need to add a page here. So I'll say page.tsx, and in here I'll say status functional component. I'll say products, and this will be the products page. Just like that, and save. So now if we go to shop stroke products, you'll see that we get to the products page, and there we go. Awesome. So this is how we can create nested routes, okay? And you can go as deep as you want. You can create more and more and more in these other folders if you want. How can we link these routes? How can we navigate, maybe create a navbar that goes to these different routes? So one place that we can add a navbar, a global navbar, it's at this layout, because here we can add some code that is shared between different pages. So for example, just right here inside the body, we have this children. So this children includes the different pages, and we can add some code here, maybe a h2 that says nav. And this nav now will be shared across the different pages. So if I save, you'll see that now at the top here, we'll have nav. So it's refreshed, and now you'll see we have this nav, and we are at products page. And if we go to any other page, we can go to shop, we'll still have this nav, we'll still have this nav at blog page, even at home we will still have that nav. So here it's one of the places where you can add a navbar. So a navbar is not a page, but it can be just its own component. So to add components, you can do it at the root app here. You can add components, but it's recommended to group the components. So you can just add a folder called components, but it's not like mandatory. So you can name the folder any name, or you can include components inside any of these other folders. So it's just up to you here, okay? And here we can be able to add a new component called navbar, and we'll say .tsx here. And in this particular component, we can be able to create our navbar. So let's create it. So I'll say status functional component here, and I'll say navbar, and here we can have a nav just like that. I'll add some styles here. using Tailwind CSS, and in here whatever we are going to add is a link. So we have a link component from Next.js, so we can use that one. So right here I'll just say link, and I'll import this from next link like this, and right here you can say whatever page you want to go to. We can start with home, and here we'll be having a href that goes to a certain route. So href, then here you can navigate to a route. So I want this href to go to home. So now when I save that, then go to our route and bring in that navbar right here. So right here you can say navbar. So I'll click on this, and this will bring in the navbar from our components and save. So now that home should be here. So now as you can see, we have this home here, and we can use this home to navigate to home. So we can add other links. I'll use Alt Shift in the bottom arrow to duplicate this multiple times, and here you can have shop. Here you can have our blog, and here you can have maybe our profile, which we added here at the account. So the different paths or URLs for this is shop here, then here we'll have blog, then here we'll have profile. And once I save them, you'll see that we have it right here. So now we have home, shop, blog, profile, which is our simple navbar, and now we can use this to go to the different routes. And this is how we can do it, by using this link component, which is pretty easy to use. So I can go to shop. Wait a minute, it's not doing anything. So I can go to shop, shop page, blog page, profile page, home page, or landing page. So earlier we had added some nested routes at our shop, which is cart and products, and if you want, you can as well include them here, but maybe they might not make so much sense, and therefore we might want to create a retro navbar for them inside our shop only. Okay, and for that case we have an option of adding layouts inside these folders. So we can add a layout file at our shop, and then we can be able to define a navbar using that layout that will only affect our shop and not other pages, which is interesting. So let's try this, and right here I'll go ahead at the root of our shop folder here, we'll add a file called layout.tsx. So I'll say layout and then .tsx. You can create a functional component and give it any name. So here I can say status functional component, and here, and you can see it's already complaining because we don't have any component exported. So here we can create shop layout. You can give it any name, it doesn't matter, as long as the name of the file is layout.tsx. okay, so we create shop layout, and in here we need to return something, and we will return a div. So it's not a must here that we return a HTML. Actually, it's not recommended to return a HTML here. Since we already have that root layout, they might collide. Okay, we are supposed now to pass children, and the children will be the different pages inside the shop. So here we are supposed to accept the children props. So here I'll say children, and we are supposed to give types to these children. If you are using TypeScript, that is. And now these children, you can pass it in here. So if I save, you'll see this error will disappear. And there we go. Now we are at the shop page without any error. Now another cool thing is that for the shop here, for SEO purposes, we can export its own metadata object. So amazingly, we can export these at our shop here. So at the top, we can export these metadata, and here we can say that we are at the shop page, and include some description and so on for this specific page. And once this refresh, you'll see these changes for shop route to shop page. So at shop, I'll refresh, and now we have this shop page. Interesting. But if we go to other routes, we'll still have e-commerce shop, we'll still have e-commerce shop for blog, for profile, but now for shop here we have customized it further and added its own title, and also we have its own layout. Now since we have this layout, amazingly is that we can add a navbar that will be specific to this shop. So this can be a side navbar or any other kind of a navbar that you might want at a certain page. So here, if I add a h2 and say nav, I'll save. So if I go to shop, we will see that we have this nav, and then we have this shop page, which is our default for shop. So let's refresh this. And now look, we have this nav and we are at the shop page. And if we visit now our cart here, so if we go to cart, you'll see that we will still have this nav. Look, we are at the cart page, but we are still seeing this nav. If we go to blog, we won't see it because that layout doesn't include our blog page. Awesome. So let's create a small navbar that will be inside our shop page. So we can go to components, we can add a new file, and we can say shop nav.tsx. So these will be so similar to our navbar here. So I can go ahead and copy everything here and go to the shop here and paste it here. Okay. Here you can add links to different parts. So you can add link to cart. So this will be stroke shop and then stroke cart. You can add a link to products. So this will be stroke shop, stroke products. And here you can say that this is products, just like that. Then I can remove this other. Actually, let's rename this shop nav. So I'll say shop nav, and down here shop nav, and I'll save. Now at our shop, then layout, we are supposed to include our component here. I'll say shop nav, which should come from components shop nav, and I'll go ahead and save. Now look, here we have our shop nav. We are at shop and we can go to cart. There we go, cart page. We can go to products. We have products page. But if we go to blog, we don't have that nav. That nav is only available in our shop, which is so cool. Awesome. Okay, so now I'll close all the files here and I will minimize everything here. And I want us to explore another file for loading. So we have a loading UI. We can display some spinner whenever we are fetching data or something like that. So in order to do that, we can go to app. Then we can add that loading at this root right here. Although you can also do it at any segment that you want. So in this case, I'll show you with the root. So here I can add a file called loading.tsx, just like that. So the name of the component again can be anything as long as the name of the file is loading. So here I'll say loading, and we won't do much. We'll just say loading here. So I can just add a div, and you can see it's already bringing an error because loading is not exporting anything. But I'll just add a div saying loading. Then I'll include like that and I'll save. So whenever I save, right now we won't see any effect because we are not fetching any data. So let's make sure that this error is gone. Okay, so the error is gone, but we are not seeing loading. So for us to add this effect, we need to mock some form of fetching data, like pretend we are fetching data, and we should see it. Okay, so here at our page right here, we can be able to define a function that tries to fetch data. So outside this component actually, so I'll go ahead and hit enter, and now right here I can create an async function. So async function, and this function we can call it fetch data. We will be able to return some form of data. So right here I can say return an array of maybe 1, 2, 3, but we can delay this process using a promise. So this is a function that will return this data, but we have this promise that will delay it. So right here at home now, we are able to await this data. Const data will be equal to await, and we will await our fetch data right here. But also once we use await here, we should mark this function as async. So we'll export default async function, and now we will get the data and log that data to the console. So I can say console.log of data. Okay, now this, whenever we save this file, you'll see that that loading component will be displayed before we get the data. So here I refresh and wait for it. So there we go, loading, then landing page. So if I refresh, loading, then you get the page. And actually when you go to the console, and that should now be on the VS Code, because this component right here is a server component, and therefore the console will be on our terminal and not the browser. And actually we have the client components and server components in Next.js, and we'll be exploring them maybe in the next video. In this video I just wanted to see the different files and how we can navigate between them. Okay, so I didn't want to focus much on the server versus client and so on. So to mark a page or a component as a client component, you need to go to the very top. Let me show you an example. So you need to go to the very top here and include use client, but we'll explore this further in the next video or so. So once you do this, now this navbar will be treated as a client component and not a server component. Now there is one thing that I forgot to show you when navigating between different links, and I can demonstrate to you by going to the shop right here. So I can go to shop, and we have a hook which is the useRouter hook for us to navigate between different pages. I can add a button here which takes me to cart. Okay, so let me show you how to add this. We need to add an onClick event to this, and then we will use the useRouter hook to navigate to cart. So at the top here we can bring in our useRouter hook. So we can say const router here will be equal to useRouter, and we invoke this, and this useRouter will come from Next navigation and not from Next router. So here if I try to auto import this, you'll see this is suggesting Next router, but it's not supposed to come from Next router. We now have Next navigation. So here I'll say Next navigation here. So this is the correct way of bringing in this useRouter. Then we'll have this router, and we can use it right here by adding an onClick event. So onClick, we will call an arrow function like this, and then we will say router dot push, and then we'll push to a certain route. And here we can say let's go to stroke shop, then stroke cart, and I'll save, And now here we'll see this go to cart. Because of Tailwind CSS, it doesn't have styles. This button doesn't have style. So if I click on go to cart, okay, we have an error here. Whenever you see that you're using a hook like this, you should mark that particular component as a client component. So here, since we are using that hook, we must say that this is a client component by saying use client. So I'll go ahead and save again, and let's refresh this. So once it's refreshed, I can click now go to cart. Now the other thing that I want to show you is the error page. So in case we had an error when loading our data, we have another file called error.tsx. So here we can add a file at the root. Also, this error.tsx can be used at any internal level here. So I'll say error.tsx, and let's create this component. So I'll say error here. It can include a use effect, and this use effect, you can use it to send data to maybe a logger, an online logger or something. And also you can include a button to try and refetch the data or reset the page or something like that. We can be able to receive the error. Also, we are able to receive a reset function, which is provided by Next.js by default. So this is a prop that will be provided there. And here, I think we should set the types for this since I'm on TypeScript. So the error will be of type error, and we can say reset here will be of type function, and this function will return void, just like that. And now that we have this error and reset, you are able to use them down here. So here at the return, we can have a div. We can display error.message here. And also we can be able to include a button. So here I can say button, and this button will simply say try again, and it will have an onClick event that calls our reset function. So here we'll say onClick, and we will call our reset function just like this, and save. So also you can send this error to a logger, an online platform, or somewhere where you'll view the logs for errors on a production app or something like that. So to do that, you can make use of a use effect. So just before the return statement, you can have a use effect. Use effect. Once you make use of a use effect, that means that this particular component is a client component. Therefore, you must mark it with use client, just like that. And here we'll go ahead and call this use effect. So normally, I think we have a function there and some dependencies here. So the dependency array, the dependency will be the error, and here you can do something to send the error to whichever place that you want. So in this case, we'll just log it to the console. So console.log of error dot message. So yeah, this is like a basic error component. You can style it better, but the idea is you receive the error and a reset function. Then this error, you can show it to the client, as well as send it to a logger. And also right here, you can add the try again button to try and refetch the data or something like that. We'll see it in action in a moment. Right now, let's make sure that our app is actually running. So I'll hit enter here, and let's see. So it's refreshing and loading landing page. So it's showing the landing page and the loading component successfully. This is where we were fetching data, and I want us to throw an error or something like that so that we see the error page in action. So here we were successfully getting the data. But now I will comment out this, and down here we can stimulate an error. So I'll await, and also I want to give it some time to process. So new promise, and in here instead of resolve we will reject. So we can reject, and we will give it a message, and we will say an error occurred, just like that. And also we should make sure that we are calling return here. So return reject an error occurred. So I'll save, and now this fetch data function, remember we are still inside this fetch data, will not get the data but throw an error. So I'll save, and let's see what happens. So here we will refresh. So it's loading, and then an error occurred. Then we have this try again at the end, which is a button. So this an error occurred is this message that we included here. So whenever we click try again, it tries to reset the page. So we'll see it in action after covering the next part, which is actually fetching data from our API or from our route API. There is one folder that we have not covered, and this will be the last one. So right now we'll go ahead and remove this. Also I'll go ahead and stop awaiting this, so that for now we have the app running successfully. Okay, so we have this API folder which we haven't looked at all, and as you can see, this is where you can define your APIs and so on. So we have API stroke hello, then here we have route.ts. So we have the get method supported, post method, we have put, we have delete. I think we have others. Maybe in a future video we'll cover all of them, but in this case I want us to just take a look at this route and see what it has. So first of all, to access this route, it's very easy. Since it's a GET request, we can fetch data from our browser. We just need to access this local host 3000, and we will say now here, so it will be stroke API stroke hello. So just the name of the folder, but in this folder we must have this route.ts file. So the file must be named as route. That is the point. So here, if I click on enter, we should be able to get back hello Next.js. So let's see. So there we go, hello Next.js. So that is how we can be able to access this particular route, by using stroke API stroke hello. Also, if you want to return this as a JSON object, you can use a next response, which is now provided by next stroke server. So here, instead of return, you can say next response. This will come from next server. We also have this next request, and this now will be returned as a JSON by saying next response and then .json, just like that. Also, to get the body from this request, you can say const body will be equal to await. Then here you will say request.json, assuming that the body will be in a JSON format. So this is how you will get the body of the request. And then now here you can extract the different fields from the body. So let's say it's a login form, so therefore you will be able to get the name, you'll be able to get the email and maybe the password, and these will be coming from the body. So this is how you can extract values from the body, and this is how you can send back the data as a JSON object or string. Okay, now let me show you how we can get this data from our app itself. So from our app, I'll just copy this URL. I can go to where we are fetching data. So here we can say const response will be equal to and we will await fetch. So we'll await fetch, which has been made much better in Next.js, and here we will include the string for our endpoint. We can check if the fetch was successful by using if right here. We'd use an exclamation mark res.ok. If res.ok is not okay, what we'll do is actually throw an error here. So you can draw a new error, and you can say failed to fetch data, failed to fetch data. And as you guessed, this error now will be handled by our error component right here, or our error. Yeah, I think it's a component, more of a component than a page. So once we draw the error, we are also supposed to actually return the data itself. So down here we can return our res then dot JSON. This is a sample example of how you can fetch the data. Then here you can also use external libraries like Axios if you want. Then right here we can log the data to the console. So right here I will save. Remember now this is a server component, so on the console that will be on our terminal. So let's see if we get our message, which is hello Next.js, and it says I failed to fetch, try again. So actually it's throwing an error. Oh, okay, so I have removed this part. I think it's the one that is causing issues, since we don't have our request. Our request doesn't have anything. But now whenever we do that, now here it's fetching, and also at the server we get hello next. So it's working awesome. And now if we come back right here, that is how we can like fetch the data, and this is how we can like define the different routes. So all you need to do is to add them in folder. So if you have a login route, you just add a folder called login, then you'll create a route.ts file. You must name it that way. Then the API will be API/login. Then in the route.ts file, you'll define the get method or the post method, and whichever method that you are defining. Here now we shouldn't be getting this try again, because it should successfully fetch the data. So if I refresh landing page, we get a landing page there. And now let me show you what I was telling you about the try again button. Right now, if we comment out this one, but bring back our error here, this one here, and we happen to refresh the page, so I'll save and refresh, you'll see we have this error now, an error card, try again. So we have this. So if for some reason, maybe it was a network error or some reason, and you try again and it happened to work out, now for example, let's now change this code here at the server and make sure that it's correct. So you'll see, even though this compiled successfully here, we still have this an error card try again. Now whenever we click try again, that is when it will try to revalidate the data or try to reload the page, something like that, and then show the correct data and so on. So if I click try again now, it shows the landing page, and actually I get 2 errors at the console. That was the previous one. I think if I refresh, that's when it disappears. So these errors I don't think will be shown in production, but if I'm missing something, let me know in the comment section below. And actually that marks the end of this video. We have covered a lot. Actually I didn't expect this video to be this long, but anyway, it's fair enough, it's strong enough, and we have covered a lot of stuffs. So we have covered the root layout, we have covered the home page here, we have covered the loading page or component, the error component, how you can create the different routes, how you can group the routes, how you can create nested routes, how you can create components and links, to the different pages, and also how you can create nested layouts and so on. And also we have this new API route right here, which is super interesting. So that is it for this video. I hope you really enjoyed, and let me know if you like to see more of Next 13 tutorials here on the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.